Hello dear friends. There are new drops of information about the plants every day, and sometimes they seem contradictory, but we know very little. There are no dates but opinions, and everyone has their own, very different opinion. Opinion piece. 6 difficult months, until March 2023, Europeans return to firewood. China hopes to devalue its currency. The Doomsday Clock has stopped. Nobel Prize for quantum entanglement. Head of corn got found in Mexico. South Korea launches rationing cut. Charlie Watt says the dollar and euro will disappear. China sets up weather station on Everest at 8,800 meters. Let's start. Spain-based Don Carlos de Marbella seems to have become the best revealer of what is going on, despite his confidentiality agreement to keep quiet on certain issues. Simon Parkes is not as outspoken as he is, but before talking about the difficult 6 months, Charlie Watt had said he expected an intervention before the midterm elections on 8th November. Could it be possible that he has been ordered to change his speech? These next 6 months would be bumpy until March 2023. The global takeover of the QFS would take 6 months. Banks, countries and governments around the world are in economic collapse, and we are heading for intervention. Charlie Watt revealed 3 points on Monday, despite his confidentiality agreement. First, the next 6 months would be very eventful until March 2023. By the way, March 5th, 2023 will be the second Sunday in Lent. Second, the takeover of the QFS would take 6 months. Third, the dollar and the euro would disappear, in his opinion. It is hoped and expected that the US Supreme Court will cancel the November 8th midterm elections. It is possible that the White Hats or the courts will postpone the elections, but nothing is set in stone. Only conjecture abounds. Curious. The symbolic Doomsday Clock seems to have stopped, despite being on the brink of a supposed world war. Nobel Prize in Economics 2022 goes to studies of banks and financial crisis, awarded to 3 US researchers, including former Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke. Nobel Prize in Physics is for the study of quantum entanglement, awarded to the quantum mechanics research of 3 scientists, Frenchman Alain Aspect, American John Closer, and Austrian Anton Zeilinger. First solar lunar eclipse of 2022. The first lunar eclipse of the year will occur on 15-16 May. It will be fully visible in Latin America and Europe with the naked eye. The Earth's natural satellite will be tinged with red, giving rise to a striking blood moon. The Pentagon's UFO unit officially acknowledges that it has encountered off-world vehicles that are not made on this Earth, in quotes. The Milky Way could harbor 4 civilizations hostile to humankind, according to the doctoral thesis of Alberto Caballero of the University of Lugo, Spain. Awakening. People are feeling the energy crisis. They are waking up and they know who is responsible. The Davos Forum played its hand to test the water and failed. PayPal shares plummet as people close accounts. People are waking up and they see that power and control of the banking system should not be centralized. The global financial system is falling apart faster than predicted, and it's about to get worse, says Gregory Manarino. Merger hidden in plain sight. The collapse has begun. Hence, why everything is skyrocketing in price and why they are trying to escalate the war. Via squeeze in the midst of the crisis, according to Alasdair MacLeod. Dollar weakens leads to funds flowing into gold and silver, and short traders closing their positions. A cascading wave of defaults is about to topple banks, according to Stephen Van Meter. Banks will face heavy losses as asset-backed loans fail. As demand and the economy continue to cool, debtors will struggle to repay their auto loans. When they default, the banks that have underwritten these loans will fail. Hell. The realm of hell, according to Poet Dog. Corporations control your desires, governments control your mind, and religions control your heart. When the whole motive of your existence is material profit made by the sale or transportation of material goods, you are on a mercantile wavelength. And that is the kingdom of Mammon, one of the generals of hell. It has other names, and is an archetype of that which feeds and maintains the hellish kingdom. Even bankers are forced to admit that the economy is starting to fall apart, according to Michael Snyder. Many of the pundits assumed that the Fed and other central banks had everything under control, and that things would get back to normal in no time. But that has not happened. Instead, the wheels seem to be coming off the bus and no one knows what to do. The Federal Reserve seems determined to keep raising interest rates in a desperate attempt to fight inflation, and this has forced other central banks around the world to raise rates as well as to keep their currencies from collapsing completely. But all of these interest rate hikes are leading us into a major global economic recession, and Europe's central bankers are literally screaming at the Fed to stop the madness. Reset news. Fed announces 6 big banks to participate in social credit system, according to Max Labo. The Federal Reserve Board has announced that 6 of the nation's largest banks will participate in a pilot climate scenario analysis exercise. This is designed to improve the ability of supervisors and firms to measure and manage climate-related financial risks. Massive stock dumps begin in major technology and consumer goods as global energy shortages begin. IMF reveals the future of the economy. Global inflation will peak. Many countries see the incoming crisis and begin to reduce exports and begin to book and stockpile, and this affects the market. The ports of Los Angeles and New York back up the shipment of cargoes with millions of goods, products and supplies adrift, with no delivery time in sight, as insurance companies panic. Nearly 30 billion in losses and jobs in the US auto industry because of China's microchip shortage. Energy crisis. The unexplainable happened in Sweden. Without the declaration of war, the power cable through which electricity was supplied to Poland suddenly broke down. The cable, which is very close to the Russian gas pipelines, has been critically damaged to such an extent that it is almost impossible to resume the flow to Poland in the future. The US sells more liquefied gas to Europe in the absence of Russian gas. French Economy Minister Bruno Le Maire said that it is unacceptable for the US to sell liquefied gas at a premium. The US is now making a lot of money by selling gas to European states at exorbitant prices, and the Europeans pay them, thus depriving their economy and competitiveness. Production is collapsing. Deindustrialization is coming. Unlike the European Union, Turkish President Erdogan decided not to commit economic suicide by sanctioning cheap Russian energy. Gas could become a bone of contention between European countries. The price of gas in Germany could rise again by the end of November in the face of social unrest over the blockades imposed by the European Union on Russia, which have led people to pay exorbitant amounts for energy. Germany is on the brink of a natural gas shortage. The UK is in a red zone of gas shortages. The UK is facing its biggest business closures since 2009 due to the energy crisis. Europeans tend to firewood in the face of energy shortages. The US is on the brink of a second gasoline shortage and a stock market crash. Sex workers in Spain are considering revealing the list of politicians who hired them if the government approves the modification of the penal code that aims to abolish prostitution. Americas. South America's agricultural industry hit by high temperatures and seasonal food spots on corn, soybeans and coffee. Coffee shortages are expected as Vietnam curbs exports and drought and frost in South America affect coffee production. Mayan discovery. Head of corn god found. A representation of the young corn god was discovered in the Mayan city of Palenque, Chiapas, in southeastern Mexico. AMLO boasts that the Spanish legislator Gerardo Pisarello praised his energy policy. The government of Argentina formalizes a scheme to encourage investment in the technology sector. Day of Mapuche resistance in Chile. Hundreds of people mobilized in Santiago on 10th October for the Day of Resistance, which commemorates the struggle of the Mapuche people. Chilean deputies approved the extension of the state of emergency in the south of the country. Bolivian indigenous representatives say that sometimes, in quotes, we are not listened to, and they forget that we exist. Bolivian miners detonate dynamite and protest against a pension administrator. The Bolivian government will subsidize 70% of the price of fertilizer in an attempt to combat rising potato prices. 55 years on, Chess Brothers speaks of betrayal and being left to die. Inca children chosen for sacrifice were given hallucinogenic drugs to calm them down. Venezuela's president reports that the search continues for people missing in a landslide. Excuse me. A state of calamity takes effect in Guatemala following tropical depression Julia. Haiti Senate urges the government to suspend foreign military intervention in the country following public protests. Asia. South Korea launches ration cut to subsidize food. 57,000 cows died in Rajasthan, India. No news in any media. China's stock market collapses. There is not enough electricity for the production of goods and not enough coal. China expects to devalue its currency, which would affect the world stock market by more than 22% and destroy more than 250 million small and large companies in the first 4 months. China buys US and European goods and meat with surplus cash and causes massive inflation. China and the class demanding more meat and goods brings the CCP to the brink of collapse. 2 months of looting in 12 Chinese provinces causes a major disruption in the global production chain, goods and aluminium. Global inflation in the construction industry wipes out small businesses. China installs the world's highest weather station on Everest at 8,800 meters. Rumors of war. Turkey and the United Nations work on getting Russian agricultural production to markets. Erdogan warns European Union of difficulties after Russia restricts gas supplies. They warned that the refusal to buy Russian coal destabilizes the market. Russia aims to stabilize world markets with its actions in energy resources. Russia tripled its trade with China so far this year, despite Western sanctions. Ukraine will suspend electricity supplies to the European Union due to Russian attacks. The West wakes up to the asymmetrical darkness. The conflict in Ukraine is really strange because it is being fought by 2 states of the same village. It is to say, it is a civil war between Slavic villages with the same religion. The game of fratricidal war is being played to make it last as long as possible, says Sorja Fall. United Nations Charter gives Russia the green light. Articles 106 and 107 of the United Nations Charter give Russia, as the legal successor of the victor of World War II, the right to take any action for attempts to revive Nazism. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres was surprised to learn that there is a piece in the United Nations Charter that allows for Russian special operation in Ukraine. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.